Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean, and today we're counting down our top 10 favorite games of the year so far.
Before Essen and before a whole bunch of new games get released, we wanted to look at the ones that had been released so far because we tend to kind of forget about everything that has happened before Essen.
Yeah, everybody does this, and all these great games come out in the first 3 quarters of the year, and then everyone kind of forgets at the end of the year. So we want to make sure that we talk about all those games. So this is, very quickly, our top 10 so far. Number 10 is Windmill Valley. And Windmill Valley was a little bit of a surprise from Board and Dice. It's just a little bit lighter, it's a little bit more colorful, and it's not light, it's more like breezy, which I guess fits because it's about windmills. And I think one of the things we loved was the theme.
Yeah, it's a great theme about growing tulips, which I haven't seen before in board games.
And then another thing is just this really clever action selection system, because you've got these 2 wheels that are kind of the cogs that I guess are running your windmill or whatever it is. And you're spinning those 2 wheels, but you're adding different actions to make those actions stronger as you go. And as you get further into the game, it really feels good to have like those combos happening there. And there's a lot of different paths in the game.
Yeah, it is filled with combos, and it's by Danny Garcia, who's been on a real tear lately. Number 9 is Joyride, which is the closest I've seen to Mario Kart as a board game, because it is a racing game, but you have ways of messing with your opponents. There are weapons that you're using, all kinds of like oil spills and stuff that gets your opponent like flipped all the way around.
Yeah, like rockets and stuff. This is kind of like Mario Kart smushed together with Mad Max, because it also has this really cool kind of post-apocalyptic vibe to it as well at the same time.
Yeah, and it is interesting because you are like trying to go around this course, but you often end up backwards, but then sometimes that's beneficial because then you can just like reverse over the next checkpoint. It definitely works better at higher player counts because it just leads to more chaos.
There are the ways at 2 players to kind of change the different maps, and it's cool because you're changing where the checkpoints are every time, and you can go whichever way you want. So you got people going totally different routes through these courses and crisscrossing in different ways and reversing and there's all this damage that goes onto your car as well. This is one that we're going to be reviewing pretty soon on the channel, so we're going to talk a lot more about it, but yeah, it's a very cool game.
Next is Castle Combo, which is a tableau builder. Everyone is putting 9 cards into a 3x3 grid. And we've played this on Board Game Arena and in a board game cafe, so we don't have proper pictures. But it's such a satisfying tableau builder. You are trying to use those 9 cards to like synergize in the best way possible to make them like all work. And we have found lots of different paths to victory.
Yeah, and I feel like there's actually a few games that have come out recently that have this sort of thing. I think Pixies is another one, and I enjoyed Pixies as well, but I do like this one just a little bit more. And I think part of that too is how you're drafting the cards, because you've got these 2 rows and the little dude kind of how he moves back and forth. And it feels like there are quite a few different paths, like oodles of different paths, because they really combo, as it says in the title, in so many different ways. And even just the last game we played and I won, I just collected a ton of keys.
So many keys.
Basically ignored the rest of it, and I managed to win, but just by 1 point. So it was nice that people could have different paths and still score fairly close to each other. Our number 7 is Arcs, and this is the big game from Leader Games that came out this year. It's been very, very popular, and it's kind of a fighty game in space, and you've got different ways that you're fighting. It's got a little bit of a trick-taking element to it, and I know a lot of folks are going to have this a lot higher on their list, and please don't get mad at us, but we have strictly played this game at 2 players, and it definitely would play better at 3 and 4, but we just haven't had that experience.
Yeah, and it does work at 2, more so than I'd say like Base Route works at 2 for sure. And it is interesting with the trick-taking follow mechanic, but also I really like that you get to choose what gets scored each round. And so like that is constantly shifting, and there's a lot of competition for those high scoring points to be scored for like where you're focusing. I hadn't seen that before really in a game with this ever shifting round scoring.
Yeah, it is. It's a really clever mechanic, and I think it would probably play better as well if we had the campaign expansion, which we don't have. But it is our number 7. Our number 6 is Terminus, and Terminus is a game that we've only played a few times so far, and we are going to have a bigger review of it once we've managed to play it a few more times. But Terminus is a slightly heavier game that has come from Inside Up Games, and it's cool because it mixes this really interesting rondelle system that's a pretty tight rondelle with this like kind of market manipulation, whereas people buy things, they get more expensive, as well as a track making game that you're interacting, but all of the interaction is kind of positive-ish.
Yeah, because you are all building, I think it's like a subway line that you're building. So you do connect with other players, but you get a bonus anytime you connect. And sometimes the goals even relate to connecting to other players. So it is this mix where they could get in your way and interfere with maybe where you wanted to build, or it might be really beneficial to be able to connect through them. So that is interesting of this like shared map board.
Yeah, and there are, again, a lot of very different paths as well, where you've got these public goals, you've got private goals, you've got these little tokens that you can pick up, you're adding like buildings to the map or stations to the map, you're building on the map, and you're doing stuff with all of those different resources as well, and you can focus on those different ways, and all of those stations you're putting out too change your powers as you go, so you also have different like worker placement powers as the game moves on. And all of that together, it took us a bit to get our head around in that first game, but I really enjoyed it the last time that we played it.
At number 5 is Doggerland, which is a thematic worker placement game that takes place during the Paleolithic age.
I think so.
So you're essentially like cave people, and you're doing a whole bunch of like cave people things. So you have to gather resources, you have to build huts, you have to expand your tribe. You're also like doing cave paintings of the very successful hunts you've done, building trinkets. And I like how thematic it is, because you have to like send a whole bunch of people out to capture a woolly mammoth, and in the winter you're going to need a whole bunch of furs to do anything that's outside.
Yeah, I really like the theme because it all takes place before there was a North Sea in the area that the North Sea is now in. That was known as Doggerland, and it kind of connected the UK and France, but there was no UK or France at the time. And I really like how tight all of it is. This is a very, very tight worker placement game, but it doesn't feel like that punishing. But it does feel like you've really got to think out what you're going to do each round and make sure that you've got those resources in the right order and you've got everything. And I also love that there's very little downtime in this because so much of it can happen at the same time.
Yeah, because everybody is doing their like actions at the same time, but it's just taking turns on like placing like the programming of what those actions will be that takes place in turns. So it can play quickly once you're familiar with it, but you do have to prepare for future rounds, and it is our number 5. Our number 4 is Wild Gardens, which is a really like charming game about foraging. You are in the forest and you have to collect a whole bunch of ingredients and then use those ingredients to make recipes. And all of the recipes look delicious. And then you're giving those like foods that you made to various visitors. And through that, you're able to like score points.
Yeah, this is my biggest surprise of the year, without a doubt. Like, hands down. I did not see this coming at all. Like, even when I looked at this, I thought, I'll like it okay. I really, really like this game. I was shocked by how interesting this game was because you're just moving, you're getting resources, using those resources to make stuff, and then giving that stuff to other customers. And that all feels like stuff I've seen in games before. But there's just something about this game that I find really charming. And I think it is partly that you've got a lot of variation with those different customers and with the ways of scoring. And there's two kind of core ways of scoring in this game too. And that's really cool as well. But yeah, I can't even totally put my finger on what charmed me about this game so much, but this really came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah, I really like that your actions as well can be customized. So you are customizing each of those basic actions. So it does make each game feel pretty different. And it is our number 4.
Our number 3 is Courtisans, and we really went back and forth on these top 3. Any of these could have been number 1, and Courtisans is the game that we have played the most this year. Courtisans is just an absolutely terrific, very simple card game where all you're doing is every turn you got 3 cards in your hand, play one in front of yourself, one in front of someone else, and one in the middle. And you're trying to put families either above or below this like really nice little cloth mat to show if they're in or out of favor with the court. And then the cards that you've got score depending on if it's above or below. That's it. I've just taught you the whole game. But boy, we have played this so much. We have taught this to well over 20 people now, I think, just because we've always got it with us for board game nights. And we have never played this and not played this a second time. Every time we've played it, people we play it with want to play it again.
Yeah, this has been really easy to teach people, and people have picked it up very quickly, even people who aren't really board gamers. And it is a very mean game. Usually after like one round, people are trying to be nice, but then you realize you can't be. You are purposely giving somebody a card that you know is going to be negative for them because you have to keep the positive. So the meanness everybody embraces very quickly.
Yeah, it's like charming meanness. It's like joyful meanness because every single thing you do is mean. It's like, well, you know what? This is what we're doing. And every single time we've played this, everyone around the table's got a smile on their face. Everyone has enjoyed it. It's a terrific game, and it's our number 3.
At number 2 is Harmonies, and this is one I thought I would like right away, and I did. It is a nature-themed, abstract tile placement game.
Yeah, I think it's tile placement. Well, yeah, they're tiles. They're just chunky, round, like really pretty tiles.
Yeah, it looks lovely. And so you're drafting these big chunky tokens and you have to place them on your board and also like stack them into different patterns, but you're also getting various scoring cards. So you're trying to make your different scoring cards hopefully work together, but the space on the board fills up so quickly.
Yeah, it really is all about efficiency and about having those 4, because I think you've got usually 4 different puzzles at the same time that you're trying to do, and you're putting these cubes on. But where you put those cubes is really important, because often what I do is I'm like, oh yeah, that pattern is kind of like this pattern, and then I realize, oh crap, I put the cube on the same thing in both patterns, so I can only do one or the other. So you really do have to kind of plan ahead and find these patterns that are going to kind of synergize together in it. And it's got a nice theme, but the theme doesn't really come through, but it still does make it pretty, and the art is so pretty.
Yeah, the art is lovely. The chunky tokens are great, and it is our number 2.
Our number 1 is Shackleton Base, A Journey to the Moon. And Shackleton Base, it's got so much going for it. Like, first of all, the theme, we love space stuff, we love science stuff, and I really enjoy that the theme kind of combines the science of building out the moon. It's not like there's a lot of science in the game, but the idea of building a base on the moon, but with the kind of realistic corporate pressures that would be tied to that, because you've got these different sponsors. And I think the different sponsors is really the thing that makes this game so interesting.
Yeah, because there are 7 corporations, but you're only ever playing with 3 of them. And it changes completely how you play the game, like what actions you can do, what you're collecting, what your goals are, how things on the board like interact, or even like taking things off of the board. So it's so different.
Yeah, it really is, because it already has this like built-in interesting puzzle where you are putting your chunks of base on the moon, and it's a little bit of an area control thing, and you're trying to gather up astronauts and you're adding those to your board. And there's a lot of like interconnected pieces even before the corporations. But then you add in these 3 different corporations each time, and those are doing totally different stuff. So you're like planning for a mission to Mars, or you're building greenhouses, or you've got like robotics, or you're mining, or you've got like moon tourism, which I think is the best one. But when you combine those, and it's like the different cards you've got, the different action spaces, the different scoring, all of that stuff, it takes this cool system and it makes it such a different game every game.
Yeah, it really combines a whole bunch of things that we enjoy, and it is our number one.
And that is it. That is our top 10 of the year so far. And as we know, kind of half of the games each year really come out after Essen or at Essen. So it's going to be interesting to see how many of these hang on at the end of the year.
Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comments what your top 10 of the year so far are. And as usual, please like, subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you next time for another game.